When you're hanging out on Universal Studios as a kid, other than Hitchcock, who were some other people that you got close to in the business during that time?
You know, not anyone, honestly. When you're there on the set, I mean, I knew a lot of people. Everybody on the lot knew everybody else. Kirk Douglas, everybody that was doing movies. But when you're working there, you're on your set all the time. You're not pretty much out socializing, or, you know, especially as a child. I imagine maybe the adult actors did. But as a child, I was on an 8-hour day, just like an adult actor, but I also had to go to school for 3 hours and go to lunch for an hour. And I could only work between 8 and 5 and 9 and 6. So I would work every day from 8 to 5 pretty much. But there just wasn't a lot of time, and if they needed you in a scene, you couldn't be off socializing somewhere. So you were right there all the time waiting to go on.
Was the entire series filmed at Universal? Were there any offs?
It was and it wasn't. It was filmed at the first year on what is now CBS Center, but it was an MCA show, and MCA bought Universal, which has been a studio since about 1910. So they came in and bought the entire studio, and that's why we actually had one of the episodes where we moved houses, because they couldn't move the house from the one studio to the other. But then we filmed the rest of the show at Universal Studios. Yes?
So what do you think of television today that comes in people's homes?
Television today has taken some marked changes. I'm a member of the Television Academy. They're the people that give out the Emmys, and I'm on their peer group. And what we are finding is, and it's going to be a fairly quick switch, everything is going to the internet. And on the broadcast television, there are the Hayes acts and quite a few acts that refrain you from doing things. I mean, you may not believe it when you see reality TV, but there are things they don't show you. When it goes to the internet, it's going to change immensely. And we as actors don't really, there's nothing we can do about it, but I would say in 10 years, you will be watching all your shows on the internet. And they're much cheaper to produce because they don't have to have the same kind of quality.
Filming in front, well, you didn't have a live audience, but with a laugh track, was there any way to test any of the scripts or anything that they would do?
Just that we would do a day of reading. On Monday, we filmed each Leave It to Beaver in 1 week. On Monday, we would finish a show on Friday. When you went home Friday night, there would be a script on your door. We would read that on Monday. They would then make changes, and that night they would deliver that to you. And we rehearsed just like a stage play where we walked through everything with all the props and all the other major characters. If there was a character besides the immediate family, that character was brought in for the 1 day of rehearsal. At about 4:30, the 2 producers and a couple other people would come down, and we would do it just like a stage play where we would walk from the different areas, like from the bedroom, say, to the dining room, and run it. And then from there on the next, and we would get changes that night, and the next morning at 8 o'clock you had to know those changes. And we would film for 3 days, and we shot one show a week for 39 weeks. Then we went to New York for 4 weeks for PR. Then we went to Chicago for about 2.5 weeks to meet with all, because that's where the advertisers were. We came back to LA, took a small break, and then went right back to filming the next 39.
Is there anybody there on the set that hasn't heard the material that would hear it and say, nah, that joke didn't work, we got to redo this?
No, because the only 2 people were Conley and Mosier. They were the writers and the producers. So when they wrote it and when they approved it, they might think that something needed to be changed on Tuesday, but they never even came back down to the set after we started filming. It was then in the director's hands.
Did the cast ever get to have any input as far as like Hugh or Barbara saying, well, I'd never do this, or maybe Theodore's character would never say this, or I'd do this?
You know, I don't really, I know I didn't. Now, Hugh Beaumont even directed a few, and so I would imagine as a director, because I'm a member of the Directors Union now, as a director, he probably had a little more freedom to change things. But as far as myself or Tony or anyone that I actually know of, no, we did not make any changes to the script. Yes?
So did you ever feel pressure that you were a role model of sorts for being a wholesome child? Did you feel pressure